Well, happy Friday, everybody. Okay, so today I thought I would just I would mellow out a little bit. I got a little hot under the collar last time, and anyway, so I thought today we would talk about something safe, which is one of my favorite, if probably the favorite focus of Vedic astrology for me. So when I do readings for people, when I do Vedic astrology readings, I really look forward to getting to the part where we get to talk about what your projection is. And so this is, I mean, most Vedic astrologers know of the projection or the reflection, which is called Arudha Lagna. But I haven't seen anybody that I've talked to really go into depth as to how important it is. My experience with the Arudha Lagna is that for me, it has been the single most empowering thing in my chart. And when I really started studying what my reflection was, what my spiritual projection to the world was, when I really started to study that and implement it, my success skyrocketed. So for me, I believe that this is the most important thing to your success. And so we're going to be talking about that. I'm going to be giving some free astrological readings here on this live Q&A. So if people are showing up, I am going to tell you when to do that. Don't start throwing in your birth date now. That's not going to. I'm not going to just pick random birth dates. I'm going to throw out a number, and you're going to have to pick a number, and then we shall see. Whoever comes closest, we'll see how many we get to, and then of course I will take some questions as well. But let's talk a little bit about what the Arudha Lagna is and why it's so important. You know, one of the most important things that anybody can do when it comes to spiritual progress is to learn how to get out of their own narcissism. And, let me give you an example. I mean, there's basically being wrapped up in yourself, being limited by your own self-referential point of view, has so many applications into how it can screw you up. But I'm just going to give you one example. So somebody commented on one of my videos, and I forget what it was talking about, but something about the flat Earth, I think, and went off about how anybody who believes NASA is a fool because of this and that and the other thing. And so I don't remember what my response is. I responded back to him, and at one point he said, "Well, I haven't researched it." Meaning, scientifically. I haven't researched it, but my gut feeling is that NASA is lying about this, and this. Now, I'm not going to get into the discussion about, whether NASA is lying about that, but to base your entire belief on a gut system, on a gut feeling, right? He has a gut feeling that the world is flat, but he can't prove it. He hasn't researched it. He doesn't know enough about it. But he's heard so-and-so say it and heard so-and-so say it. And all that's happening is that he's got his self-referential, narcissistic point of view. He's got probably an emotional attachment to it, and he'd have to be willing to explore that to see how much that's influencing his view of things. But clearly, he is getting information from people who tell him what he wants to hear based on his gut feeling that he hasn't bothered to try and research and can't, because of the hole that he's put himself in. So that could apply to anything. Let me give you another example. Let's just say let's say you meet somebody for the first time, and you go out on a coffee date. You meet them through Tinder or OkCupid or whatever it is. And you meet somebody and you go out on a coffee date. And you have a pretty good time, but you're both nervous on the first meeting, and so you're not quite sure. And you say, hey, let's get together on the weekend and grab a bite to eat. Oh, great. Okay, well, let's reconnect then, and that sounds great. Let's get together. You don't make a specific time. You just say you're going to reconnect, and yeah, let's talk again before the weekend. So Friday rolls around, and you haven't heard from the person. You texted them, if you're at least from a guy, you do the right thing. The next morning you text, hey, it was great meeting you, and I'm looking forward to our dinner date on the weekend or whatever it is. So let's say you did that, and then come Friday, you haven't heard anything. Well, there's all kinds of ways you could respond to that, but if you get wrapped up in your own narcissism, let's say you've decided that that person doesn't like you, isn't attracted to you, and they're just avoiding you. So a lot of people will do this. Since you don't know the person, you'll go, well, that person doesn't want me, they're avoiding me, and I really hate that about them. And then you build up this hatred toward the other person, and I can't believe they did that. And boy, and then of course you get a text or a phone call, Friday late afternoon saying, hey, I'm so sorry, I got really wrapped up in work. This weekend is busy. How is Sunday looking? And then you realize that you made all these conclusions, and you were totally wrong because you were wrapped up in your own narcissistic self-projection. And as you know, everything is projection. Everything in your world is projection. And so what we're going to talk about now is not how you, from your own unconscious, project your reality. What we're going to talk about today is how the universe projects a very specific light through you to others that you don't know anything about. And this is important to understand, but in order to be able to understand it, you have to get out of your own narcissistic experience of yourself. Because how you see yourself is not how other people see you. And the more that you try to show people how you feel about yourself, the worse you're going to make it. Because, and I used to be an actor, so let's use this as an example. You go on stage and you're playing a certain character. Now, you don't show up in your dress. You're not playing yourself. You go and you put on a costume and you put makeup on and maybe a wig, and then the light hits you a certain way, and then there's a backdrop. If it's, let's say, in the 1700s, then it'll be the backdrop of something, that is reflective of that time period. So you're not there to reveal yourself. You're there to play a part. You're there to project your character. So this is true for human life as well. From the Vedic astrological perspective, you definitely have your own experience, you have your own feelings, and you have your own karmic connection with your world, which is your sign. By the way, the Vedic astrology is very different from Western, and at some point we'll get into that. But so your sign is how you need to karmically interact with your world. It's how you see yourself. When you look at yourself in the mirror, that's what you see. But that's not what everybody else sees. Like this picture here, that this little kitten looks and sees a big giant lion, right? When he looks in the mirror, but when we look at him, we see a little kitten. So the same is true for you. If you and I if we're standing next to each other, and if we look at the mirror reflection in front of us, I'm not going to see the same thing in the mirror that you see when you look at yourself. If I look at your reflection, I'm going to see something totally different. And so another way to look at it is when you go to the museum to look at beautiful paintings, you don't take a microscope or magnifying glass up to the paint to see what the paint chips are made of and what kind of canvas there is. No, you stand back so that the light will hit it and reflect off of you, off of the painting, and create a picture in your mind. That's what you're there. You want to see that. If somebody were to take you and force you to look at the canvas, you'd be like, I didn't come here to look at the canvas. I came here to look at the painting. Show me the painting. This is true for you as well. So what the Arudha Lagna does for your awareness of self is that it gets you out of your narcissism. And again, let me use the example of acting. When I was a young guy and I was an actor in my 20s, I would, of course, be all wrapped up into whether I was feeling it in the moment. And that's what that's what actors want. They want to feel, honestly, emotionally connected to what they're saying in the moment. But it's virtually impossible to do that, especially when you're doing a play and you're doing it over and over and over. There are just times where you're just going to be standing and saying your lines and you're going to be thinking about something else. Well, the truth of the matter is that committing to your action as your character is far more important than whether or not you're feeling it, right? So, what a lot of bad, inexperienced actors do is that they'll wait around and try and drudge up the feeling before they say their line, instead of just, thinking about what it is they want to accomplish and just saying their line, whether they feel it or not. Because the truth is that the audience will believe whatever you tell them. As long as you're committed to it, without hesitation, you commit to what it is you're trying to tell them, they'll believe you. And the same is true for you in your life. If you run around trying to, change people's experience of you to what you feel about yourself, then you're stepping on their experience of you. Again, if you're talking about an actor, and I had this experience as an actor, I would go up on stage and I would do my thing, and of course maybe I'd miss a line here, or in one speech I wasn't as emotionally connected or whatever. And so I'd be beating myself up after the performance, and people would come up and they'd say, "Oh my God, that was so amazing and so brilliant." And then I'd say, "No, I really sucked tonight because I did this." And then you see this look on their face of, the joy that they were experiencing. It's like you just crapped all over them. And it took me a while to realize how selfish that was and how destructive. Because, what you really want to say is, if somebody says, "I really loved your performance, you did this," your response should be, "Thank you very much. I'm really glad that I was able to give that to you. Thank you so much." Because you're not there to have your own experience of the emotions. You're there to play a part. You're there to give other people in the audience an experience of their emotions. That's why people go to watch movies in theater. They want to have their own experience, and it's your job as the performer to give that to them. So when it comes to your life, you don't realize it, but you are also a performer. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that your job is to lie to people and not be authentic. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that even though, like for instance, me, I was born in Vedic astrology, my sign is Leo. So that is how I need to interact with my karmas. I need to interact as Leo. I've got Moon in my first house, which means I'm very emotional. My Moon is debilitated, which means I feel very vulnerable lots of times and all that. And so if I walk around trying to convince people that that's what I am, when they're having another experience of me, then I'm being selfish and I'm taking away the gift that the universe gives them. So here's how the Arudha Lagna works. The Arudha, I use two words for it. I use projection. And projection means that this is an energy that is being projected through you, which means you don't have anything to do with it. This isn't something that you've earned in this lifetime. It's come from previous lifetimes. It's a gift that the universe wants to give through you. And so whatever this is, you need to get out of the way and just let it be projected through you. And you can feel totally different from it. Doesn't matter if you feel like it or not. If you just leave it alone, that's how other people are going to experience that light being projected through you. It's called the reflection because, as I said, like when you go to look at a painting, you're looking to see the light and the colors that reflect off that painting, and you create the picture in your mind. Same is true. When you walk in the room, what people see is what is energetically being reflected off of you, and it will have its own quality, and it is something that people want. When people go to the museum, they want to see the paintings from afar. They want to see that. When people meet you, they want to see your reflection. They don't want to see your experience of yourself. When they first meet you, they want to see your reflection. And what is really important about this is that you can find out how you are sabotaging your own success. And when you find out the ways that you are actively trying to block what is coming through you because of your own ego, either you're embarrassed of it or you don't feel worthy of it. Those are two big ones. People feel embarrassed about it or they don't feel worthy. And so they try, like, when I did as an actor, and I would say, no, I really sucked. And they would say, I didn't get that at all. I saw you looked great. And then, I'm ruining their experience by telling them how crappy I did. Well, the same is true for the reflection. When we allow our ego and our shame and our own dislike of ourselves, when we try and force that onto other people, when they're seeing, like this, here the little kitten is seeing himself as a lion, but imagine it was reversed. Imagine that he is a lion looking in the mirror and he sees a little kitten. Well, the rest of the world sees this big, huge lion, but he doesn't see that. He sees a little kitten in himself. So if he tries to run up to everybody to tell them he's a little kitten, he's going to scare the crap out of people. He should just be the lion and stand there and say, nope, I know I'm a little kitten, but I am this big lion. I'm the king of the jungle, and everybody will believe it. So you have a role. You have a role to be your reflection, and it is important to understand what your reflection is and how you are blocking it through your own shame or your own insecurity or your own narcissism. And when you can let go of that and let that reflection shine through to other people, people are going to give you success. They're going to give you money. They're going to give you friendship. Because again, you are letting them have the gift of the projection that's wanting to come through you, which is coming directly from the universe, from God, from the Spirit, whatever word you want to use. It's coming directly through you to them, and when you let that hit them, they will be empowered, and then they will want to thank you for that. So they're going to thank you for the energy that the universe is giving them through you. But you need to know what this is, and most people do not know what their reflection is. And we can look at this in your Vedic astrological chart. And so today I'm going to do at least 2 free readings, and I'm only going to look at your Arudha. I'm not going to look at your whole chart. And by the way, in case you want an astrological reading and you want to find out what your Arudha is, go to, where is it? astrology.thunderwizard.com. Go there and you can find out exactly what your Arudha is. Okay, so this is how it's going to work. I'm going to take a little bit of a break and then I'll come back. And I'll tell you when I come back exactly how I want to do this. So let's take a short break and then I'll come back and then I'm going to give out a couple of Arudha Lagna readings for you. So be back. Okay, so I'm going to tell you in a second what I'm going to do in order to pick the two readings. But the first thing I'm going to do is I do think that there was a question here about the Arudha, and I will see if I can answer that. So let's see here. Order of the Volor. I believe this is Natalia Lokia. She says, question, hello teacher, Natalia Lokia here. When donning the costume of your Arudha, what is your favorite assumption people have of you as a result? People always assume I'm an evil witch. Haha. Well, my favorite assumption about myself is that when I'm donning my costume, which I'm wearing right now, by the way, my costume is more than just what I'm wearing. My costume is shaving of the head, it's going to the gym and lifting weights, it's being physically active, all of that. My assumption is that what people want to see in me is somebody that will keep them safe and let them feel protected, and also give them warmth and love. So what they really want is a nice guy, but that is going to be it's going to be nice and loving and warm. But if you end up in a bad alley, as long as you stick close to him, he'll take care of you. The kind of guy that, if there's going to be trouble, he's going to be the guy that walks in and says, okay, guys, let's just cut it out here. You go your way, you go your way, and we're going to go this way. So that's my assumption based on my Arudha, which is the warrior of balance, is one way to put it. So here's what we're going to do. Thank you for the question, Natalia. So I'm going to come back to some of these questions here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and take a look at one chart, and I'm just going to look at the Arudha. So first off, in order for me to do this, you have to be somebody who has not gotten a reading from me. By the way, let me put this up so in case you want a reading, you can get one. Okay, so astrology.thunderwizard.com, right up here. Okay, so you have to be somebody who hasn't had a reading from me, and yeah. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to think of a number between 100 and 150. And the person who is closest to the number that I'm thinking of, between 100 and 150, that person I'm going to take a look at. But you have to have your exact birth time, the birth city, and the date. If you don't have the exact time, don't bother, because I can't help you. Vedic astrology is very precise. I need your exact, down to the minute. Like sometime between 11 and 12 isn't going to work. I need the exact minute that you were born. Okay? So I'm now thinking of a number between 100 and 150. And so I will, take the next few people who throw some numbers out, and who's ever's closest, I will go ahead and take a look at their Arudha. Remember, you have to be somebody who hasn't had a reading with me before, and you've never taken a look at your, okay, so NJ 1117, it has to be between 100 and 150, so I'm sorry, you just got rid of yourself. You have to listen. You have to pay attention. Paying attention is a good thing. Okay, so all right. So let's see. I'll let a couple more come through, and then when I say stop, I don't want any more numbers. Okay. So I'll give it another 20 seconds. 19, 18, 17, 16, 343. It has to be between 100 and 150. What is the problem here? Okay, so we're probably down around 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, no more numbers. No more numbers. Done. I won't take any more numbers now. All right. So I'm going to take a look and see who was closest here among the numbers that are here. Again, between 100 and 150, 78 doesn't count. And 343, I'm sorry, that doesn't count either. So my number was 143. So the person who is the closest is Romnian, Germany. Yay, everybody, yay, Romnian, Germany. So Romnian, Germany, I need you to give me your birth date, which is day, month, and year. Spell out the month because in different countries people put them in different places. So give me the month, the day, and the year. Give me the exact time of your birth, down to the minute, and the city that you were born in. Okay, if I don't have all those things, I'm going to have to go and give it to somebody else. So, Romnian, Germany, go ahead and write that in. I'm waiting for you. I need the exact date and the exact time and the city of your birth so that I can find out what your Arudha is, your Arudha Lagna. Let's see, which program do I want to use? I think I want to use this one. Okay, I'm waiting for you. Romnian, Germany, come on, where are you? Where are you? We're going to run out of time. If you can't type it in here pretty quick, I'm going to run out of time and we're going to give it to somebody else. So, if you're not able to type it in, are you even there? Romnian, Germany, are you there? So, I don't know, maybe he doesn't understand how this works. I'm going to do this right now. Here we go. 22nd of December 2000, 11:05 a.m., Kaltenkirchen, Germany. All right, so I got to punch this into my software here. So we're going to add a chart, add a profile, enter the name. Okay, Romnian, Germany. He's male. His date of birth is the 22nd. Whoops. Okay, 22nd of December 2000. So December 22nd of 2000. So that makes him 18 years old. He's just barely old enough to be an adult. All right, December 22nd, 2000, 11:05 a.m. Let's see, 11:05 a.m. and the location is Kaltenkirchen. That's a mouthful for you. There, it comes right up there. Kaltenkirchen, Germany, next. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at your Arudha Lagna. All right, so there's all kinds of things I can tell you about your chart, but I'm not going to do that. If you want to get a reading from me, I will be, or from one of my, by the way, if you want a reading from me or from one of my apprentices, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. I've just finished the astrological certification program, which is at astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com. And so these are people whom I've certified, and I've got one person up. I've got a couple other that I'm this close to certifying, probably tonight or tomorrow, and I'll get them up on the website. But if you want to get one from me, you have to pay my price because my time is precious. If you want to save $100 and get the same reading that I would give, then you can get one from one of my apprentices. And if you go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, you'll see exactly how to do that. All right, so now I got to take a look and see what your Arudha is. So that is your ascendant sign, and then I got to find out where the planet is for that. Where is it? Okay, so let's go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we count 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'm going to write in here what your Arudha is. Let me see if I did that right. I just got to double check here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Okay, so your Arudha, your reflection is Virgo in Leo in the 9th house. Okay, there you go. That is your Arudha. Virgo in Leo in the 9th house. So what that means is and I'll go ahead and tell you what your ascendant is. Your ascendant, remember, this is Vedic astrology. I don't care what your Western sign is. There are a bunch of reasons that it's going to be different. Just forget about all that. We're dealing with Vedic astrology, which, anyway, I'll talk more about why it's different and why I think it's more accurate. So your sign in Vedic astrology is Capricorn. Capricorn is a Saturn sign. So that means that you've got Venus in your first house. So that's kind of a tough place for Venus to be. But anyway, that's how you experience yourself. I won't get into that. You experience yourself as Venus in Capricorn. However, that's not how people see you. The way people see you is as, sorry, what did I do? Virgo and Leo? I'm really out of it. Leo, sorry. I got confused because Virgo is next to it. Oops, sorry. Correction. Let me correct myself. I just made a fool out of myself. Correction. Leo in the 9th house. Okay. Sorry. Leo in the... Boy, man, I'm really missing it today. Sorry. Correction again. We'll get it. Leo in the 8th house, right? 1, 2, oops, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I had it wrong. Oh my God. I promise this is right. Virgo in the 9th house. Holy crap. All right. If I wasn't embarrassed before, I sure am now. All right. That's the right one. Virgo in the 9th house. Trust me, there's no more corrections that need to get done. So you have Virgo in the 9th house. This is how people see you. So now we have to talk about these two things. Now, you don't have any planets in the 9th house. If you had a planet in the 9th house, let's say you had Mars there, then we'd have to deal with a warrior. That would mean that you were a warrior, that people saw you as a warrior. If you had Jupiter in the 9th house, then people would see you as a priest. So we don't have any planets there, which is good. So you have simply Virgo in the 9th house. So what is Virgo? Virgo is the internal expression of Mercury. And what is Mercury? Mercury is the planet of the intellect. So we have two things which we in modern times confuse with the mind. We have the intellect and the mind. The mind is the meditative mind that sees things from a distance, that reflects the light of the sun, the light of the spirit. You have the intellect, which is the one that reads papers and reads books and figures things out and talks about things, has to classify things. So the Mercury is the communicator. Mercury is the student. Mercury is the professor, the philosopher, somebody who's expounding in verbal terms what the truth is. So that means that people see you, since Virgo is the internal expression of that. Gemini would be the external expression, like Gemini would be the professor at the lectern giving a class. But Virgo would be the student in the library, reading the books, trying to get everything right. You go and you want to talk to the Virgo. Hey, Virgo. And Virgo says, quiet, quiet, I'm studying. I can't talk to you right now. I'm writing a paper. I'm discovering the truth about, and you're going to be reading a lot of books. So it is in the 9th house. So the 9th house is the temple. The 9th house represents the traditional home of Jupiter, which is the priest. So this is a very auspicious placement because people are seeing you from your 9th house. They're seeing you from your spirituality. So the way people experience you is somebody who is who has a good intellect, who has a smart mind, and I mean that in terms of learning. And they see you as a studious person, a learned person, somebody who who is able to understand things, in books, and the Virgo is also a healer. Virgo is somebody who goes out and picks the herbs and figures out which herbs go together to heal certain illnesses. So you see what I mean? This is somebody who really looks and puts things together, and really deep thinker. This is how people see you. So here's what I suggest that you do. Understand that even though you see yourself as Venus in Capricorn, that's how you feel about yourself. Understand that the way you feel about yourself is not how people see you. So what you need to do is you need to go and research that. So research what Virgo is. Go research what Virgo is in Vedic astrology. Not in Western, but in Vedic. V-E-D-I-C. Research Virgo in Vedic astrology. Find out what Virgo is, because when people meet you, they think you're a Virgo. Even if they don't know what a Virgo is, what Virgo represents, that's what they think you are. Now, if you're presenting yourself as something else, it's going to confuse them. They're going to like, why is he trying to be something else? I can clearly see this guy's a Virgo. And the 9th house means the priest. So the people also see you as a spiritual person. They see you as somebody who's like studying in the temple library. So they see you as somebody who studies or is wanting to understand spiritual concepts, like from books, from spiritual texts. So that's how you need to present yourself. So what I recommend, here's what I recommend people do. You make 2 lists. The first list is you write down all the things that you like. What is it that you like about Virgo? What is it that you like about the 9th house? Because you want to also go and find out what is the 9th house in Vedic astrology. And I've given you some examples. It's the temple. It's the place of worship. It represents spirituality. It represents religious truth, spiritual truth. This is just some of the things that the 9th house represents. It represents your dharma, which is your true path in life. So they see you as somebody who is walking his true path. So that's really important. If you're not walking your true path, people are not going to be comfortable with you, because what's coming off of you, what they want to see, is somebody, this studious person who follows the path of dharma, follows the path of his orlog, of the truth of the universe. If they see you as somebody that's walking away from that, it's going to confuse them. This is an important thing to understand about the Arudha. Remember, it's not about how you feel about yourself, it's about how they see you. Also remember that the Arudha is a projection as well as a reflection. The universe has said, for me, I'm a Leo, and the universe has said, well, that's great, you want to be a Leo, but we're actually going to give out the experience of Libra, which is what my Arudha is. So if I try to project something other than Libra, then people get confused, because they're like, I can clearly see that you have this Libra energy, meaning balance. I can clearly see. And I've had people say this. I've been, for instance, just to give you an example in my own life, when my fiance was very sick before she passed away, I went and visited her in the hospital. And of course, she was very sick and in a lot of pain. And it was horrible. I was in a lot of emotional turmoil watching, my partner, you can imagine what was going on with me emotionally and mentally. But I knew that the best thing for her was to just come and not freak out and not do all the things that probably everybody else is doing, and just be there with her. And so I just sat down, and I didn't, I just tried to just to give her peace. Now inside I was raging with all kinds of feelings, but I just let myself be there and sit next to her, and her response was, wow, you're so calm. You're so peaceful. Right? That's Libra. Now I'm lucky because that's my Arudha. So all I had to do was just show up and not get in the way, and my Arudha would give her what my Arudha does, which is it will bring peace, it will bring a feeling of balance, and so that's what I'm here to do. Now, Ramnyan, when you walk in the room, people want to experience a feeling of spirituality. They want to feel an experience of the Virgo, which is somebody who goes deep. So if you act like an idiot, and act like a clown, if you show up dressed as a clown and want to do a song and dance, and play the kazoo, people are going to go, that doesn't feel right. But if you show up and even if you don't say anything, if you show up and allow yourself to just be there and don't try and tell people who you are, people will automatically get this experience that you're a spiritual person. And they may even want to ask you about spiritual things because they see the Virgo in you. They see you as a Virgo, which is a studious, smart, intellectual person. So you see what I mean? So, as I said, what you need to do is make two lists. Make a list of what you like about Vedic Astrology Virgo and what you like about Vedic Astrology the 9th house. And then make a second list. The second list, you're going to write down all of the things that you don't relate to. If you don't relate to being studious or smart, if you don't relate to feeling spiritual, if you think that that's not you, or if it embarrasses you, or if you think you're not worthy of it, write all that down. And then look at the two lists and then create a costume for yourself. And imagine that you're going to go to a costume contest and you want to win the costume contest. And your costume is going to be the scholar priest. And what is the scholar priest? How does he dress? How does he behave? How does he walk into a room? All those kinds of things. You're gonna make a costume so that you can win the costume as that character. And then what I'd like for you to do is to look at all the things you put in the second column, the things that you don't like, or you don't feel like, or you don't relate to. Those are all of the ways in which you are sabotaging your success. Because if you try and cover those things up or act differently than the things you don't like, then what will happen is people will resent you and they will want to block your success. Because this is all happening on an unconscious level. It's, again, if you ever had the experience of you run into somebody and you say to yourself, I don't know what it is about that person, but gosh, I really like them. They have this really wonderful, strange, quirky character about them, but I really like that. I really like that person, and I don't really know why. That's a good sign that this is somebody who is allowing their projection to come through. Because on an unconscious level, you are being blessed by the projection that's flowing through them, and you are seeing them the way that you want to see them, and so you're grateful. Because like the performer who just does their job and says thank you and doesn't try and tell you how they screwed up or whatever, they let you have the experience of the show. And my screen says that I'm, give me a second here, my screen says that if you're still hearing me, if you are, let me know, but my screen is, there's a little beach ball spinning around. Okay, so let's give this a second. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my little thing here. I'll come back in a couple minutes and hopefully the screen will have fixed itself. So, I'll be right back. Okay, so it looks like the stream is back again. All right, so I think you get the picture of what your Arudha is. So again, the most important thing is to look at the things that you don't relate to, and those are the things you have to punch up, because that's where your success is. If you're walking around saying to yourself, you know, gosh, I wish I had more money, and I wish I had more this, and I wish I had more that, and I wish I was more successful, well, then you look at that second list of the things that you don't like, and you start doing those things, you know, whether you like it or not. And you get your ego out of the way, and it might be embarrassing. Now, some people really like their Arudha, and some people are really connected to it. And so it's easier for them. Now, I wasn't. I was not. I did not like mine. I'm Mars in the third house in Libra. That's my Arudha. And as you've probably heard me say a million times, I really struggled with the warrior part of it. I didn't like that. But my Arudha is that I speak the truth and I speak it directly. Mars in the third house wants to speak directly. Mars doesn't want to waste any time with chit chat, wants to get right to the heart of things. And sometimes, you know, Mars is Mars. Mars is a fighter, so sometimes Mars is aggressive and very direct about what they want to say. But Mars, you know, is doing that because it wants to fight illusion and fight, you know, corruption and those kinds of things. Now, Libra, on the other hand, is kind of balancing that, literally, because Libra is the sign of balance. And so, but now I didn't have a problem with the balance part. You know, I didn't have a problem sometimes being direct with people, but I did have a problem with the idea of being the warrior, the protector. I had a real hard time with that. But once I started, you know, wearing sleeveless shirts and shaving my head and bulking up and, you know, doing all the things that would give the appearance of the warrior, the protector, the friendly bouncer. Once I started giving off that vibe, then my success started going through the roof. Now, still, this isn't, you know, I try and find stuff that I like, and I try and find my costume, and I'm still, you know, I'm still creating my costume here, and some of it's kind of cool. Would I walk out the door looking like this? Probably not. But the truth is if I did, people would respond positively to that. They might go, wow, look at that guy. But internally, they would be saying, I kind of like that. He wears those things, but I kind of like that about him. So you do the same for yourself. That's the bottom line with that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to take some questions. And here's how this works. Questions are, what I want to do is I want to get to your questions. So instead of writing your opinion and talking with each other, if you could please not do that. If you have a question, please write question in all caps so I can see it, and then have a well thought out question. And please, please do actually write it out well. And you know, with a verb and a subject and an object so that it makes sense. Some people just throw out words, just random words thrown together with question marks as though I'm going to know what the hell they're thinking. No, actually ask a question and then I'll be able to help you. So there were some other questions back up here from, I think Natalia Lokia asked some interesting questions. So she asks, question, in context to the Orlog, soul desire, which is also Dharma, and the Arudha, when aligning them together and empowering yourself, manifest your perfect reality. How do the Orlog and the Arudha work together? How does the Arudha, I'm now using my words, how does the Arudha align with your true soul desire? I think the way that I would say that is this, and I'm just talking about myself here. When I operate from my Arudha, it is the vehicle through which I can achieve my purpose. This is why the universe has set it up so that, you know, when you operate from your Arudha, you will be successful. So here's one thing about the Arudha that you need to know. The Arudha may or may not tell you exactly what to do for a living. Like mine tells me exactly what I need to do. If I study exactly where Mars is and what the nakshatra that it's sitting on, which is the star constellation, when I look at the exact pada, the exact section of the star constellation that Mars is sitting in, and I find out what all that stuff means, and then I do that exact thing in my career, I have tremendous success. So for me, if I want to find out what I'm supposed to do for a living, I study my Arudha. Now, for some of them, that may not be the case, like the one we just saw. He doesn't have a planet there. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly how that Arudha wants to present itself. But what I can say is whatever it is Ramnian Germany does for a living, whatever it is that he does, if he does it in the character of the scholar priest or the studious priest or whatever it is, if he does it in that manner, whatever it is he does for a living, he will be rewarded for that. So that's the main thing to take from this is the Arudha is telling you how to have success in whatever it is that you're doing. You just take your costume to work, whatever your work is, to the best that you can. I mean, if I had an office job, you know, depending, it might be hard for me to show up in this costume, but I'd have to do something, you know, in order to be perceived that way. Okay? So again, I guess the best way to look at it is that the Arudha is the vehicle through which you can express your true path. And it tells you how to express it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that was a great question. All right, so let's see. See if there's any other questions. Any other questions pop up? That was a while ago, so I've done some talking since then. Rami, question. What if somebody don't know what time exactly he was born? Well, then it's going to be hard to do a reading for you. There is services called birth rectification. I don't do it, but if you want to find out exactly what time you were born from an astrological perspective, you have to get with a Vedic astrologer who knows how to do birth rectification, and they're probably going to ask you a ton of questions so that they can narrow down exactly where you are. Actually, my chart was rectified by a few minutes, because if I had gone a few minutes in another direction, my chart would have said that I like to work for other people, which, as you can tell, I don't. I don't like working for other people. I only want to work for myself. And as it turns out, you go in a few minutes in another direction, and boom, you end up right where I'm at. So it's good to find an astrologer. If you have a basic idea, you can get close. In any case, get a birth rectification chart. I'm writing it down here for you. From a Vedic astrologer. Okay? All right, so let's see here. Any more questions? Gaming Terry says, question, does Vedic astrology address north and south nodes? Yes. In fact, Vedic astrology, I would say, places a heavier emphasis on them. They're not called the north and the south nodes. They're called Rahu and Ketu. So let me tell you the story of Rahu and Ketu, because it's really an amazing story and very pertinent to our lives on all levels. So, the way Vedic astrology and Vedic mythology teaches is that when the gods were, when the universe was being formed, the gods and the demons, now demons don't mean demons in the same way we use them in the West. It would be similar to saying the Aesir and the Vanir. So the Vanir are the earthly gods and the Aesir are the celestial gods, the heavenly gods and the earthly gods. And they're at war with each other, right? So in the Vedic tradition, they have a little bit different skew, but it's pretty much the same thing. You have the Devi, which are the celestial gods, and then you have the Asuras, which mean the terrestrial gods. And so the Devis and the Asuras, they were stirring the milk, they're trying to get the nectar of immortality. So they're the milk of the universe, or I forget what they call it. They're stirring it with a snake. They're using the body of a snake to stir it. And up comes this nectar of immortality. And so the celestial gods had this plan that they were going to drink all of the nectar of immortality, and they weren't going to let the Asuras, the terrestrial gods, drink any of it. And so they told Vishnu to transform himself into this beautiful belly dancing woman. And so the terrestrial gods, because they're, connected to their lust and all that, they represent that. As Vishnu is dancing around and giving the nectar of immortality to the gods, the asuras are they're forgot about the nectar of immortality, and they're just watching, Vishnu's ass shaking their face while she's bending over, and so they're just totally distracted. Now, there was an asura who was a serpent. His name was Rahu. And he had been given permission by Brahma to drink the nectar of immortality. So he shows up and he's sitting in between the sun and the moon. And he's disguised himself as a god, whatever that looked like, I don't know. So Vishnu's dancing around, and he/she dancing around with this nectar of immortality and is giving it to all the gods. And I don't know who came first, but let's just say it was the moon. So it gives it to the moon and then gives it to Rahu, who's disguised. Now Rahu goes to drink the nectar of immortality, and maybe his sunglasses come up as he goes to drink it. And the sun and the moon both see that it's Rahu, the serpent, the asura, and they scream, "It's a demon, kill him." So Vishnu pulls out his chakra, which is his weapon, and he slices off Rahu's head. Rahu is in the midst of swallowing. He's swallowing the nectar of immortality when his head gets cut off. Now, he's immortal, so he can't die. So what that means is his head is floating around and his body, the body of the snake, is writhing around. Now, this represents two things. It represents becoming incarnated into human form and why we become incarnated. And it also represents what liberates us, that takes us out of the physical world. So Rahu represents all of your obsessions, all of your addictions. On the positive side, it represents all of your aspirations and your unfulfilled desires. So Rahu tells you why you came into existence. So where Rahu is in your chart will tell you what it is you really want to achieve in life. It won't necessarily tell you what your soul desire is, but it will tell you what it is you're trying to achieve in life and that you can never get enough of. So for instance, in my chart, Rahu's in the 11th house in Gemini. So the 11th house is networking. The 11th house is gains. The 11th house has to do with success that's earned over your lifetime. And Gemini represents, of course, communication. So this means that I want to achieve through networking and communication. And Rahu, since he's there, he also represents the internet. So that tells you what it is I want to get success at. And no matter how much success I achieve, it's never going to be enough. I'm always going to want to improve on that, right? So you can see that from what I'm doing here. I'm an attention whore. Whenever I get a chance, and I come on and I blather on for 3 hours because that's something that I want to do. As it turns out, that's also connected to my Arudha, so you can see how everything is interconnected there. Now let's talk about Ketu. Ketu is the body of the snake. So Ketu doesn't have a head. Now since Rahu doesn't have a body, as he's swallowing the nectar of immortality, he is fantasizing about all the things he's going to get from being immortal. He's fantasizing about all of the wives and the husbands and the money and the sex and the power and the just whatever it is that he wants. He's fantasizing all that, but now he's a head with no body. He can't experience any of those things. So all he can do is think all day about all the things he can never have. And that represents our addiction. So when Rahu is not placed well, it can represent addiction, insanity, all kinds of things. All right? Now on the flip side, you have Ketu, which is the body of the snake that's writhing around. It doesn't have a head. It doesn't have a brain. It doesn't think. It can't see. It can only feel. So on the negative side, Ketu represents all of your physical, instinctual things like fight or flight or tend and befriend, which are things that we do when we're in danger. It represents, on the positive side, shamanism in the sense of being empathic. So there's a difference between being psychic and being empathic. Being psychic means that you can see into the future and you know what's going on. And empathic just means that you can feel what other people are feeling. You can feel something that's going on. Something's coming, I can feel it. You know, this is shamanic empathy. And Ketu can represent that. But what Ketu also represents is the opposite of Rahu, which is if Rahu is all the things that you can't achieve or that you haven't achieved yet, Ketu represents the things that you have achieved and that you don't care about anymore. So wherever Ketu is placed in your chart will tell you what you have mastered in a previous life and what you don't care about anymore, but you are a master of it. So again, in my chart, I've got Ketu in the 5th house in Sagittarius. So the 5th house represents children, for one thing. I have never wanted children, never. In fact, the thought of having children, I think to myself, why? Why in the world would you want to do that? What a waste of time. But more than that, I have my own judgment. Bear in mind, this is my own judgment. Again, we got to get out of our own narcissism. So I'm aware this is my own judgment. Works for me, but I know everybody's different. I have this reaction to kids is like, how narcissistic is it of you to get so focused on, I want to have kids and I need to be loved by kids and my kids this, and I mean, it's 20 years of your life talking about, here, look at my kids. It's such a waste of energy. It's a waste of resources. Think of all the resources that are going to go that kid is going to eat up and and take away from. This is the kind of stuff that goes through my head. So what that means is that in a past life, I must have mastered the desire to have kids. It probably means that I've had numerous, maybe hundreds or thousands of kids throughout many lifetimes. It probably means that I learned what it meant to be a good dad or a good mother, depending on what sex I was. Actually, that's interesting because when I talk to kids, little kids, people will say, oh my God, you're so good with kids. You should be a dad. I've had so many women say, but you should be a dad. You'd be so good. Hell no, I don't want that. That means I did it in a past life. So this is what Rahu and Ketu are. And these are important things. You got to know where these are in your chart because, for instance, I have to continuously tell myself that, whatever success I achieve, I got to be comfortable with it and happy with it because I'm always going to want to do more, always. It's never going to be enough. And as long as I know that, then I won't drive myself crazy. At the same time, knowing where Ketu is, it tells me what I have mastery in. So, I mean, if I had to, I could babysit a little kid and I'd know exactly how to entertain them and keep them happy. The 5th house also represents things like performance. I was an actor for the first part of my life, and now I'm like, you got to pay me a lot of money if you want me to act in a movie now. That's a lot of, I don't want, I got other things to do than to spend all day on a film set wanting to. It also represents things like music and all those kinds of things, and I'm self-taught in a bunch of musical instruments and pick them up, and people say, oh my God, how long did it take you? I don't know, I just picked it up and I started playing with it, and the flutes that I play, I totally self-taught. That's Ketu in the 5th house. It means that you've mastered that. So these are important things to know because, especially where Ketu is, because you have mastery of things that you're completely unaware of. And the reason why you're unaware of it is because you don't care. It doesn't matter to you. But the things that do matter to you are things that you came here to learn. So Rahu will tell you why you incarnated. And again, this is what I've been saying, which is that there's no, incarnation doesn't happen because the universe is teaching you a lesson. You don't reincarnate as a punishment. So people talk about, I want to be free of this life. I don't want to incarnate. I'm never coming back to this hellhole. I hate there. Well, that's a guarantee you're coming back. Because your soul actually chose to come here because it has a desire. It has desires that it wants to fulfill, both on a spiritual level and on a mundane level. So, that's for me, Rahu, I obsess about how can I do better at this business? How can I do better at this YouTube thing? I obsess about that. That's not my sole desire. That's just my, my mundane obsession. My sole desire is actually surfing. That's what gives me the greatest happiness. So the real reason my soul came is my soul wanted to surf, wanted to experience the ocean. Like I was out surfing yesterday, and it's just incredibly beautiful. The Catalina Island off in the distance, and the clouds, the sparkling water, and the mountains over here, and the cliffs over there, and then comes the dolphins, right in front of me, just a whole pod of dolphins. And, it just gives me such joy. That is something my soul wants to experience. So this is one of the reasons that I've came into existence. So that's a long answer to your question about do we take the north and the south nodes into astrology? We absolutely do. I would say even more importantly than in Western astrology. So let's see, Jedi Black Knight question. So can we assume that planets placed in Arudha are good pointers for the best career, or should we see from 10th house from Arudha? No, you don't want to look at the 10th house from the Arudha. Now you're complicating things. Again, I know you, and that Saturn wants to hyper complicate. No, you don't look at the 10th house from the Arudha. You have the 10th house, which is your fame, what used to be your career, but now it's your fame, and it may be what you do for a living, but it's really your fame. Your Arudha is what we talked about, it's your reflection. But the planets in the Arudha are telling you how to be. So Mars in the 3rd house, even though Mars in the 3rd house is hands, and it is true, I'm very good with my hands, like that's in martial arts, one of the things I was really good. I have very fast, powerful hands. That's because I have Mars in the 3rd house. But that doesn't mean I have to go and start beating people up. It's saying that I need to present myself as a warrior. It's telling me how to exhibit. So if you have, whatever your job is, if you have Mars there, it means that you need to look like a warrior. If you have Saturn, you need to look like a judge. If you have Jupiter, you need to look like a priest. Okay? So again, don't overthink it. One thing, you Jedi Black Knight, you need to sometimes just take things at their surface level, not try and go too deep, because you end up going so far into the maze you can't get out. But anyway, that's a good question. Grebnor Thomas question. If you put question in all caps, I'm more likely to see it. If you don't, I might miss it, but I saw it this time. Question. While doing Hool breath and Thor's hammer exercise, what order is better? Which first? Do Thor's hammer first, and then do the Hool breath second. In case any of you are interested and you want really the most powerful Qigong, and you can in fact ask Jedi Black Knight about it, he'll tell you. Go to qigong.thunderwizard.com. That is the most powerful energetic practice I've ever experienced. Not only is it powerful and gives you all the things that energy work will give you and give you magic and all that other stuff, if what you want is to get out and if you want to get high without harming yourself, without the side effects of drugs or alcohol, do Celestial Qigong and ask Jedi Black Knight. He'll tell you all about it. Okay, so let's see what else. Doku 007. Question. My Arudha Lagna is Rahu in 5th house in Capricorn. All right, so Doku, that's not how this works. I'm going to do somebody's Arudha Lagna for free if they haven't had a reading from me. So if you've had a reading from me, I will have told you what all that is. Okay, so anyway, yeah, no, I want to have the experience of giving it to somebody who doesn't know what their chart is. So if you would like that, if you haven't had a reading from me, then I recommend going to astrology.thunderwizard.com and getting a reading from either me or one of my apprentices who can go into that and tell you exactly what that is. All right, let's see. Question, Cosmic Mortality. Hi, Thunder Wizard. Can I please get a reading? No, I told you that's not how it works. I'm going to tell you how it works. It works when I tell you to pick a number and I haven't chosen a number yet. So I'm going to do another one. And when I pick a number, you pick it, and if you're closest to it, then I'll give you a reading. Okay? All right. So please don't put question and then ask me to give you a reading. That's not a question. That's a request. I'm not doing any requests today. All right, Johnny Delgadillo question. So can Rahu and Ketu, psychic and empathic, work together in one body? I don't know what you're asking. I don't know if I've given you a reading. I don't know if you understand. Rahu and Ketu are always opposite each other. Okay, so I get what your question is, but I don't think it's applicable to what we're talking about. So anyway, Johnny Delgadillo question, I don't know what this word is, can INE be at peace with one soul in the spiritual realm and other in this realm? Like, again, I'm not clear what that question is. You've got to write the question in a way where I can read it and make sense of it. I don't know what you're asking me. It sounds like a really intellectualized question. Maybe I'm not sure I'm getting it, but anyway, I don't understand it, so I can't answer your question for you. Rami question, how do I get back the knowledge of these things that I have mastered before? It's a good question. One way is to, number one, don't take yourself too seriously, because that's Rahu. Rahu is going to be connected to your ego and what it is you think you need and what you want in your life. Fame, fortune, and all this stuff that never brings happiness. So the first thing is don't take yourself too seriously. Now, I need to learn this lesson as much as anybody else. But when you don't take yourself too seriously and then you don't care. The point is, Ketu doesn't care about, he doesn't have any emotional connection or ego, because he doesn't have an ego. He doesn't have any ego connection to what he's mastered, which is why he doesn't even know he's mastered it. He doesn't care. So you gotta stop caring. And meditation is, this is what one of the things that meditation does. The more that you meditate, the more that you connect to your deeper true self, and the less with your superficial mundane self. Okay? And I don't want to make a value judgment. There's nothing wrong with either of them. But you're asking me, how do you connect to what you've already mastered? The whole idea is Ketu isn't going to tell you because he doesn't care. So this is another reason to get a reading. Because otherwise, like for me, my whole thing about kids, I thought there was something wrong with me. And people would say, what is wrong with you that you don't want to have kids? I mean, people got on my case about it. Especially women, back when, I was in my 30s and I was dating women in their 30s. They got really upset that I didn't want to have kids. What the hell was wrong with me that I didn't want to have kids? I'm like, God, why? What is wrong with me? Well, it's nothing wrong with me. I've just done it before. That's why I don't care about it. Okay? So I would recommend getting a reading if you haven't had one already. Let's see. Yeah, people ask me, I'm not going to take random questions about your Arudha. Johnny Delgadillo, question. Do you have a question for me? What? Really? What is that? What is that, man? Come on. Let's see. No more questions. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to take a break. When I come back, I am going to pick a number between 200 and 300. I'm going to pick a number between 200 and 300. You're going to pick that number and pick a number between 200 and 300, and the person who's closest, I will take a look at their Arudha. Remember, you can't have had a reading from me before, and you have to know your exact birth time and the city that you were born in. Okay, so I will be right back. All right, let's see if you picked a number between 200 and 250. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, you got to listen to what I'm saying, you guys. People throwing out numbers between 200 and 250. Let's see here. Okay, there's one that's pretty close. Whoop. Let's see here. That one's very close. All right, I'm going to give you another 10 seconds, and then we're going to be done with the guessing. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, done. All right, so yeah, and you can't guess twice, guys. So Johnny Delgadillo, man, I don't know. Are you trying to piss me off? You can't guess twice. No, you guessed once. Your first one is the one that counts. Your second one doesn't count. All right, but let's see here. The person who got closest so far, there's one. Okay. Yep. Okay, so the person who wins is Shireen Batcha, and she was closest. The number was 228, and she guessed 230. Okay, so Shireen Batcha, I need you to write your month, day, and year, the exact time you were born, and the city you were born in. Okay? Okay, so I'm waiting for Shireen. Exact time of birth, month, date, and year, and city. Okay, let's all just get up and blow our nose or do something until she comes back. All right. Okay, Shireen, what happened to you? Are you still there? There it is. I need time and I need city. Okay, you guys got to listen. I need the exact time and the city and the date. You're only giving me the date. So tell me now, do you know the exact time and the city? Because otherwise I got to give it to somebody else. Please, guys, I need you to listen. Okay, there's the town. I need the time. Do you have the exact time to the minute? It's a yes or no question. Come on. Time is burning here. Do you know your exact time? Exact time of birth to the minute. Okay, what's happening? I don't see a response. So I'm about to go give it to somebody else because I know that there are people here that can tell me right off the bat everything I'm asking for. There we go. All right, so Shireen Bacha. Let's put her in. So let's add her into here. So again, I don't know what your actual name is. Okay, so yeah, there's a delay. That's true. There is a delay. But I did tell you everything I needed you to put down. So, you know, got to put that all down. Anyway, let's see here. So Shireen, let's just put the name Shireen in here. She is a female. Date of birth is March 22nd, 1992. March 22nd, 1992. Done. Time of birth, 5:05 a.m. 5:05 a.m. Location is Rajapalayam. Let's see if this can find it. There it is. Tamil Nadu, India. Boom. There we go. Okay, so your chart. You are an Aquarius ascendant. So now we're going to find out what your Arudha is. So we have to find out where Saturn is. Okay, so Saturn's there, so that menu from there. Okay. Okay, your Arudha is Rahu in the 11th house in Sagittarius. Okay, that's your Arudha. Rahu in the 11th house in Sagittarius. All right, so now we have to see what this is. So you are an Aquarius. So that's interesting. There's going to be a lot of overlap here because there are some things that are very similar. So your Arudha is going to have some things that are connected to Aquarius. You've got Venus and Mars in there, so I won't get into all of that. But Aquarius is the sign of Saturn after Saturn has taught the lessons, which is Capricorn, hard work and lessons. And once Saturn has pounded the lessons in you and you have worked through your karma, then what happens is you reach the state of Aquarius, which is Saturn is taking the masses and bringing them up and equalizing them with the elite, which is exactly what's happening. This is why we're entering the age of Aquarius now. The age of Aquarius, you know the song, "This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, love and harmony and understanding." What Aquarius, the age of Aquarius is about is being able to achieve your success and your individual success by being in cooperation with others. So everybody is achieving their own success, they have their own identity, and they interface and cooperate with everybody else. This is why, like the hippie movement was really Aquarius sort of crashing into the age of Pisces, which is, hey man, let's forget about all of this profit and let's just sit down and have a commune together. It's communing together, people helping each other. You see this in the desire for people to barter. They don't want to have money. They don't want to use money. They want to barter. So, you want to come. You need somebody to come and fix your plumbing. So the plumber goes to fix your plumbing, and in exchange for that, you go over to his house and you paint his walls. You change, you barter. A lot of people want to barter with me. I understand that. I prefer to have money because money pays my rent. But that's Aquarius. That's who you are, right? That's your ascendant. That's your personality. You have Mars and Venus in there. I won't get into that. So your Arudha is Rahu in the 11th house. Now, I already told you for me, I've got Rahu in the 11th house as well, in Gemini. Yours is in Sagittarius. It would be interesting to take a look at the exact nakshatra. I'm not going to do that, but that's something you should look into. What nakshatra is Rahu in? And what is the exact pada that Rahu is sitting in? So remember, Rahu is your obsessions. It's your ambition. It's your desire. So you too also are very focused on success in this life. So the second house is, for instance, money that you get from your parents. If you're born into a rich house, you're going to see that in your second house. Into a rich family, you're going to see that in your second house. But if you're somebody that is self-made, that's going to be seen from the 11th house, which is the house of gains. And the 11th house showers onto the 10th house, which is fame and career. So the 11th house will tell you, the gains that you're going to get from your career. And it wants to give that, to give to your fame. So you want that. You want success. Now the 11th house is networking. So Rahu is all about networking as well. Rahu, doesn't just stick his finger into one pie. He grows 100 fingers and he sticks every finger into 100 different pies. He's doing a bunch of different things at once. So that's networking. Sagittarius is the sign of the priest, the sign of the external expression of Jupiter. right? So this is the priest in the temple doing the ritual to bless the world. So Rahu really wants to reach out to humanity in as many ways as he can, as powerfully and as fast as he can, to bring spiritual truth to the world. And you want this not only because it gives you joy and pleasure, but because your success is connected to it. And again, you're going to be perhaps obsessed with it, no matter how successful you become at doing this, at spreading this spiritual information. No matter how successful you become at it, it's never going to be enough. You're always going to be wanting to find new ways to do it more powerfully. So there is your Arudha, Rahu in the 11th house in Sagittarius. Okay, so let's take a break. And now I'll open it up to questions about anything you want to talk about. We will answer those questions. So let's take a break. Remember, if you want an astrological reading, you want to find out all of these things. You want to know where Rahu is, where Ketu is. You want to know what your Arudha is. If you want to know what mantra is specifically designed for you, if you want to know which deities are wanting to work with you on the conscious, the unconscious, and the subconscious level, if you want to know the exact ritual that your chart says that you need to do in order to be able to open up to your highest empowerment, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. You can get one from me and pay my price, or if you want to save $100, you can get one from one of my apprentices who are also doing it. And so I'll be back in about a minute and a half. Okay, let's see what other questions we have here. Again, now I'll take questions about anything while you still have me. Kindred Spirits says, question, have you used the destiny point to help someone better know their path? No, that's not part of what I give in a reading. I'm familiar with the destiny point, and even though I'm familiar with it, I don't teach things unless I feel like I've got a good mastery of it. So to be honest, I would need to learn more about it. Here's the thing about Vedic astrology. And now, it is true that there is a lot I have yet to learn about Vedic astrology. I used to say, when I would say that, and I used to start saying that, I haven't mastered it, I'm not a master of it. And every time that would start to come out of my mouth, I could feel the universe slapping me on the back of the head saying, don't say that. You are a master of Vedic astrology. That doesn't mean I know everything there is to know. I'm a master of what I do in a reading. So any Vedic astrologer who doesn't admit that, run away from that person as fast as possible, because this science is huge. It's also a holographic science, meaning if somebody has mastered, let's say, the ascendant, and they've mastered, and they have an intuitive understanding from the ascendant, they can help you from that perspective in any way that you need, because it's like it's a hologram. It's like looking at a crystal. You know, when I was a kid, my mom had this big giant crystal, you know, those fake crystal chandeliers with the big giant crystals on it, you know, and she'd take them off, and, you know, and I remember picking up one of the crystals and putting my eyeball to it. And when you look in the crystal, you see all the other crystals, and you see all the little pictures that are coming in from all the other crystals. And so you're seeing a bunch of things from one perspective. Now, you could turn that around and look at it from another facet in the crystal, and then you'd see everything from a different, you know, all the other perspectives, right? So if we're talking about like all of the deities, you know, if you've got Indra over here, and you've got Odin over here, and you've got, you know, whatever, you know, Hecate over here, and you've got Zeus over here, and these are all little facets. You can say, is there one, are the gods just an emanation of the one true source of infinity? You can say, yes. Does that mean that they're not different gods? No, it doesn't. And you can see them all through your perspective, right? So the same thing is true with Vedic astrology. You know, for me, one of the things that has punched up for me that I really enjoy doing. Now, I'm still going to continue to learn it, but I haven't seen another Vedic astrologer who is able to talk about the Arudha the way I do. I have a real passion for it. I have an experience with it. So because I have experience with it, because I have a passion for it, and because I've been, you know, seeing from personal experience doing a lot of readings, I've seen a lot about what the Arudha can do. So for me, at some point, there may come a time when I only do readings from the Arudha. I won't even bother with anything else. I'll take somebody's time and I'll just find out what their Arudha is. And from the Arudha, I can find out all kinds of different things. And it's the same. You know, you go talk to somebody who looks at the ascendant, or somebody who looks at the destiny point, you know, and if they've mastered that, that's what's most important in my experience. So anyway, I hope I answered that question. So let's see here. Gremnor Thomas question, while doing whole breath, does the visualization need to be precise? No. The visualization is only there to help you. A lot of people need visualization because if they don't have the visualization, they get bored. And then they start to get anxious, and then I can't meditate because I can't empty my mind. So the visualization on the whole breath is there to help you to visualize what the energy is already doing. So as long as you hit that posture and you do the breath exactly the way that I tell you to do it in the video, as long as you do that, the energy is doing what the visualization is talking about. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, go onto my channel and type in this, H-U-U-L, breath. Okay, again, let me talk about how to get the most out of my channel. If you really want to get the most out of my channel, you're going to have to spend some time to watch the videos. Again, I was going through my channel again today, and I've got some really, really powerful, very necessary information, and people just aren't watching the videos, and it's because they're not looking for them. So, you know, figure out how to go onto somebody's channel and, you know, not just type into the search box at the top of YouTube, but know how to search within somebody's channel and just look. You can also just go and look at the playlist that I have. I got a lot of really important stuff there too. So, all right, let's see what else here. So Danielle Pena, you're probably new to this. I'm not taking any more astrology readings for today. I've already done the 2. If you're interested in, you know, go back and watch what this is about. And if you want to get a reading from me or one of my students, go here, astrology.thunderwizard.com. Gen V01 question, how to see spiritual growth from the birth chart? What are the combinations? Well, spiritual growth is a big subject. So I don't know what you mean by that. You know, spiritual growth in what way? See, here's the thing. Life is spiritual growth. There isn't a part of the chart that just talks about spiritual growth. To be a human being is spiritual growth. You came into existence as a human being for one purpose only, and that was for spiritual growth. So what do you mean by spiritual growth? Do you mean when I've achieved enlightenment or when I have higher? None of that. That's not spirituality. Spiritual growth is just simply maturity. That's it. You know somebody who's mature? Mature people are people who don't take themselves too seriously, who are kind to others, who are honest, who are fearless, who look at life's problems as opportunities to grow. They look at how, they don't get wrapped up in childish things. They don't get wrapped up in superficial things. They're not afraid. They're not running away from their life. These are all signs of spiritual growth. And all of that is going to be in your chart, because your chart is just simply a snapshot of what you needed when you incarnated and what it is that you want to experience. So I want to challenge you at that thought process of spiritual growth. Spiritual growth is just being human right now, this very second, having all of your emotions and all of your feelings right here and right now. That's as spiritual as you can get. So the chart is only there to give you kind of a snapshot of where you're at in multiple lifetimes. I mean, this is just one lifetime out of who knows how many thousands. And this is just one snapshot. Okay? So, I could say, oh, the ninth house or whatever, but, really that's what it is. The whole chart is about your spiritual growth from beginning to end. Gremnor Thomas question. While doing whole breath when bringing down the ice or snow, I don't really feel it, but I can feel the rest. That's not a question. You've just made a statement. In order to ask a question, you have to be asking something. So you've made a statement, and I see it. I don't know what your question is. All right. Okay. I'm not seeing a whole lot here. So I'm getting close to just shutting down for the evening and getting ready for my weekend. Let me see if anything comes to mind. I'm going to need a couple of seconds here while I decide how to wrap this up. So I'll be back in about a minute and a half. All right, so I want to talk to you about questions. I don't see any more questions here. So we're going through a period right now of a lot of intensity. I don't know if you've felt it, if emotionally you're feeling a lot of intensity, if you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling self-conscious, if you're feeling critical, if you're wanting to lash out, at teachers or people in authority, or if you're wanting to, really drill into your kids or your students or your little brother or, people younger than you, what it is they need to do to get themselves together. This is because we've got a lot of things going on, astrologically speaking. We've got, let me take a look exactly what is happening exactly right now. I want to make sure I get this right. So what's happening right now is, whoops, that's not what I want. What's happening right now is, and it's right now this second, Jupiter is in the ascendant in Libra. So Jupiter is rising in Libra right now as we speak. Jupiter is retrograde, which means Jupiter, normally the teacher, Jupiter is normally Santa Claus, the priest who's all loving and accepting and wants to help people, and let's let everybody come into the temple, and yeah, bring in the murderer and the whomever, and for right now you have the blessing, you're, blah blah blah, you're safe from, and Jupiter is just very loving and expansive and healing, as the teacher. Jupiter is retrograde, which means Jupiter is now the thunder god, because the thunder is Jupiter. So when Jupiter turns retrograde, Jupiter becomes Indra, the thunder god, and starts shooting lightning bolts out. And these are truths, because Jupiter is deep truth that goes beyond words. And when Jupiter strikes, it's instantaneous. And I can tell you this from personal experience. I have Jupiter retrograde in my 8th house, which is sudden changes and all kinds of stuff. Holy crap, I won't get into it now, but there have been times recently that Jupiter just touched me, and holy crap, man, all kinds of stuff, really challenging things came up in my life. But whenever Jupiter does that, it's destroying thousands of lifetimes of karma, like that. That's why Jupiter is a demon fighter. So you think of Mars as the fighter, but Jupiter is actually, when Jupiter turns retrograde, that's the demon fighter. That's why Indra is the one that fights Vritra. That's why Thor, the thunder god, is the one who goes out and fights the giants. It's because when Jupiter turns retrograde, he becomes a demon fighter. So that means things within you. If you've noticed with me lately, like for instance, my apologies, I really got bent out of shape in the last live Q&A. And, I look back on it now, and I chose to do that. I wasn't out of control, by the way. I wasn't just having a temper tantrum out of control. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I was choosing to do it. And I was doing it because I wanted to honor this very power we're talking about. Now that I've seen it, I've experimented, I'm going to go, next time I'm going to pull back. But what really struck me was that there was an individual who had made the statement that the news stories of people in Syria being bombed with chemical weapons, he was saying was fake news. And what really struck me about that was how flippant that was. Because listen, this whole thing about conspiracy theories and, the thing that people, that's so, especially over YouTube, that's so prominent about the archons and the reptilians and Saturn and the flat earth and, even, just all these conspiracies. People then want to compete with each other and see who's the more cool guy. Well, you think that's a conspiracy. What you're seeing on the news about chemical attacks in Syria, that's all fake, When somebody says something like that, it shows that they don't believe what they're saying, number one. And number two, they're so disconnected from that, and they're so interested in being flippant and cool. And it's more cool to see how far off the edge you can go with your conspiracies than it is to ask yourself, what the hell does that mean? Is that really going on? And I could tell when the guy threw that out that he didn't mean that he didn't believe that. And what I was choosing to do in that moment was really strike into that guy, that you can't be flippant about that kind of destruction on people's lives. It's just not something to be flippant about. You can't joke around, and that's not a joke. And had he asked the question of, what I've heard is that some people are saying that these news reports are false, what do you think about it? Then I would have responded, without the lightning bolts that came out at that guy. I would have said that I didn't, I would have said something very different. So that's really what that was about. Now, having said that, looking back on it, I would pull back on that. I wouldn't do that again. I don't think. I don't think it's helpful. I didn't like it when I looked back and watched it. I didn't like it. But it's important to understand this is what Jupiter's doing right now. So I said earlier that questions are important. Why is it that when people don't ask a question, I don't respond? Have you noticed that? It looks like I'm being an asshole, but that's not what it is. In order for the teacher to help the student must ask. Because if I drive up on somebody without their permission, and I just start telling them what I know to be true and what they need to do, that's abusive. Now it's different, I'm doing a YouTube thing, so I come on and I say what I think, but just by coming onto my channel, that in itself sets it up that you're asking, you're wanting to hear what I have to say. So that in itself is kind of a question. So asking questions are really important when you have this kind of energy. Now the kind of, you don't have to ask me, you don't have to ask another teacher even, but just in meditation you can ask Jupiter, the teacher, the guru, the master, the entity that represents deep spiritual knowledge. You can say, what will be helpful for me to know? How can I grow right now? Somebody asked a question about where to find spiritual growth in the chart, and then apparently from what I saw, they appreciated the answer. So that kind of a mindset, we were talking about respect for the teacher. That's another thing that came out in the last one. People were asking questions and I was saying that's disrespectful. The way you ask that question or asking me about other teachers is disrespectful. And it's not because I'm trying to tout my ego. I mean, it does annoy me on a personal level. I won't lie to you. But that's not why I say that. There's a lot of questions that annoy me on a personal level that I still answer because I can see that it's an honest question. The reason why I do that is because one of the things that's missing in modern techno, culture is people don't have respect for spirituality. People treat teachers like eBay, and they see spirituality as a product that they want to buy. And so they will demand from the teacher what the teacher is supposed to do for them. I've gotten that before too. People will say, well, tell me exactly what I'm going to get if I do your celestial qigong. And I will, if I'm in a good mood, I'll say, I can't, you'll just have to find out for yourself. And if I see a lot of that, I'll say, you know what, I'm not the right teacher for you. It's just don't waste your time. It's not right for you. Because if you don't have that respect for not necessarily just the teacher, but the teaching, then you can't learn. When you go to learn martial arts, if you've become a master of some martial art and you're going to go, like this is what one of the big mistakes that MMA martial artists make is they think, well, I've mastered, boxing and now I'm going to go do this and I'm going to mix them together. Like sword work. I want to learn how to, fighting with a sword and boxing are two totally different things. If you try and take the tactics of boxing and take it to sword fighting, you're going to get your ass kicked. You're going to get sliced to pieces, and vice versa. You want to take, how I fought with a sword and take it to boxing, you're going to get your ass kicked. So you have to take everything that you know and put it aside and go, and they're going to teach you things that you're going to go, no, that's wrong. You're supposed to put your foot here so you can drive the punch like, but that's something else. One of my teachers, I had two African drum masters that I learned from. And one of them, his name is Francis Awe. And he's, I mean, the skill that this guy has, the amazing skill that he has with drums, with, you know, talking drums and hand drums, and, you know, just, and rhythm, his knowledge of rhythm and how, I mean, is just mind-boggling. And he went to go get a degree in music here in the States. And he went to go learn some other drum something from somebody. And the teacher said to him, "Oh, you're already a master. You'll get this." And he says, "No, I'm not. That's my tradition. I don't know anything about this." That right there shows you that he's a master, that he has that understanding, that he knows that he has to put his knowledge aside and learn this, even if it's going to be totally different and feel totally wrong. So when we're talking about feeling totally wrong, we have Saturn now. So Saturn is going retrograde as well. Saturn is going retrograde in Sagittarius. Okay? Now Jupiter has gone retrograde in Libra. Libra, as you've heard me say, is the sign of balance. It looks like justice, but it's not. The scales are about in the marketplace getting a fair exchange for your money, getting your money's worth is what it really means. So it represents balance. But when Jupiter goes retrograde, then it means justice. It means creating. There's a major imbalance, and Jupiter is going to shoot his lightning bolt to get those scales back to normal again. So somebody's going to get hit with that lightning. You know, there's somebody in the marketplace that's cheating people, and he's not giving what people are paying him to give, and Jupiter's going to strike him down with it to get some balance back. You know, so then it becomes justice. Saturn is retrograde in Sagittarius. So that means Sagittarius is the priest and is the temple. Now, this means that the priest is out of the temple, and the judge, the angry judge, is now in the temple. So understand that the judge is there to implement the law. Who writes the law? Jupiter writes the law. Jupiter says that things should be equal and people need to be treated with respect and the gods deserve this, and so, you know, he writes the laws. You know, for instance, a spiritual law is, from my perspective as a teacher, I can't help you unless you ask for my help. That's why I can't be a spiritual teacher to a friend or to a lover, because you can't have that. You can't put yourself on your knees and ask for my help as a teacher and then look me in the eyes equally. You can't do both. So it's not my job. If I've got friends or if I'm in a relationship, it's not my job to be the teacher. Right? It's just my job to be human, and then there's a whole other thing about I have an agenda and all that kind of stuff. But so Jupiter writes the laws, and Saturn, as the judge, implements them. And this is what karma is. This is what difficult lessons are, is Saturn saying, listen, you have got to learn this. You are out of balance here, and if you don't get this, it's going to destroy you. So I am going to put pressure on you until, you know, he's going to stick his thumb on your head, and he's going to start squishing your head until you get the lesson. And so you feel like you're a victim. In fact, I'll say this. Every single person I've known who is deep into conspiracy theories, especially these Saturn moon matrix things, people who think that Saturn is this place where, you know, reptilians come to control you. These are people who have major issues with Saturn, which means that they are really fighting their karmic lessons, and they feel like a victim. They feel like Saturn is squishing them. And they're, but what Saturn is doing is Saturn is like, you know, like when you're a kid, you know, and you get somebody and you're like, say uncle, say uncle, say uncle, and you keep twisting the arm until they go uncle or they tap out. Saturn is just waiting for you to tap out. You know, once you tap out, he's going to let go. He's going to let go, and he's going to go, that's all I wanted. I just wanted you to get the lesson. Now that you've got the lesson, let me give you peace. Let me give you success. Let me give you understanding. Right? So Saturn wants to give you blessings, but when he's retrograde like this, this is the judge walking into the temple who's saying, all right, guys, you are missing the point of spirituality, and I am going to, you go stand in the corner, and I'm going to take away your toys, and if you don't pay attention to take this seriously. That was part of what was happening the other day too. For that guy to come onto my channel and spout this crap about, people in Syria getting hit with chemical weapons and that it was some faked thing, that was Saturn in me saying, there's no way I'm going to let you walk into the temple and make light of people's lives. Because to say that without any knowledge of what's really going on is so destructive to people. This is why we have laws, by the way. There's freedom of speech, and then there's hate speech. So freedom of speech is say whatever you want. We want that freedom. But when you start attacking people and calling them racial slurs, that's hate speech, and that is violence. And so that's why we have laws against that, because that's not free speech at that point. So Saturn is the one that jumps in and starts saying, you can't do that. You can't make light of people. So Saturn is now saying, don't make light of spirituality. Don't take it for granted. Don't be flippant about it. That doesn't mean you have to follow the dogma of a religion. You can definitely question, because the other thing Saturn is doing is he's making people question, and he's making people challenge the priest. I'm getting this right and left. I'm getting people writing me and saying, I don't agree with that. They're nitpicking me on this, that, and the other thing. Well, that's what Saturn is doing. They're putting me, Saturn is keeping me in my place. Do you really know what you're talking about? So that's why when I don't have the answer to a question, I say, I don't know how to answer that, or I don't have the knowledge to answer that question for you. So having an attitude of respect in your spiritual life, and having an inquisitive mind, wanting to know, asking, because you can't learn without an open mind. And so if you have those two things, respect and having an open mind, that will get you through this period of retrograde Saturn and Jupiter. But if you don't take it seriously, and if you're not in your highest awareness, then, you might have some challenges there. Or, you run the risk of Jupiter hitting you with a lightning bolt, or you run the risk of Saturn going, really? You're not taking it seriously? Okay, then 20 laps instead of 10. Okay? All right, so let me just see if I saw a bunch of questions come up as I was talking, so let me take a look here. Kindred Spirit question. I've heard you speak about debilitated planets. How do they affect Dharma and Palana? So how do debilitated planets affect the Dharma and Palana devatas? Well, debilitated planets, everything, there's a balance to it. So debilitated means weak. So, if a planet is debilitated, it means that on the surface it's weak. But you have to go deeper than that. You have to look and see what it is in the 9th divisional chart. I won't get into all that. But if you have a weak planet in your birth chart, but that same planet is strong in your 9th divisional chart, then it means that that planet is going to actually bless you, and it's going to strengthen over time. So, this whole idea of debilitation, it just means that the effects of that planet are delayed and it's looking inward again. So it means you're going to get the benefits of it. You may not see it, but it's going to go deep, take its roots deep, and then when it does come out, it's going to be more powerful. It also may mean that you're going to get the benefits of that planet, but through challenging experiences. Okay? So so that's how they affect it. So, the Dharma Devata, the Palana Devata, and all that, they are what they are. I don't get too wrapped up in whether they're debilitated or not. Because, if somebody's Dharma Devata is Jupiter, and Jupiter is retrograde, or if Jupiter is debilitated, it doesn't change the fact that Jupiter has said, I'm the one through which you need to find your path. And I'm the one through which you need to get your unconscious mind to release the negative aspects. I mean, I could go so far as to say that if, let's say, Jupiter is your Dharma Devata and Jupiter is debilitated, that means that Jupiter is saying, I got to go in deep because you got some real serious misunderstandings about your path. And so we got to do some work here. See, so it depends on how you look at it. It doesn't change anything. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's how I see it. Okay, so Grebner Thomas question, is that a problem relating to a previous statement? Sorry, not finishing question. I don't understand your question. Is that a problem relating to a previous statement? Sorry, not finishing question. Well, I forgive you for not finishing your question. I still don't know what you're asking me. Abrupt future. Ah. Ah. I'm in the present. Here comes the future. Ah. Abrupt future. Question. When doing the seed sound thung with the hand seal, would it be beneficial to face the east? It won't hurt. It depends on the context. If you're doing it in the context of a certain ritual to Jupiter, let's say, then if you're doing it with that, then you want to know in your chart which direction Jupiter wants you to face. Having said that, generally speaking, if you just want to sit facing east, do the thung seed sound and make the, I'm assuming you mean this mudra here. Then that will definitely work because east is the direction of thunar. Thung is the seed sound for thunder and the seed sound for thunar. For those of you who aren't familiar, go look at this, the Thurisaj Rune Mudra Meditation on my channel. I think that'll show it to you. Again, right there, that thing right there, thousands of dollars. It contains stuff that I'm not supposed to give out to the public, and that I had to spend a lot of time and money learning from somebody to get. It's a secret thing. You only give it to. This is just one of the things I give out for free on my channel. So anybody who gets on my case and says that I'm in this for the money or that I'm whatever, if you go on my channel and you don't spend a dime and you do the things that are on the free channel, there's stuff on there that you won't find anywhere else. So anyway, 30 size rune mudra meditation. All right, let's see. Any more questions? Valerie Bradshaw question, does having Jupiter retrograde make that person a fighter? No, not necessarily. No. Again, you can't make that broad of a statement without looking at the whole chart. You have to look at the whole chart and what's aspecting it and all that kind of stuff, Could mean something totally different. A fighter of any kind, not just, again, I don't know why you're asking that. It makes me think that you have Jupiter retrograde in your chart and you're wanting me to tell you that you're a spiritual fighter. I don't know. Maybe that's what you're asking. I don't know. I would have to look at your chart. Go here if you haven't already gotten a reading from me. Astrology.thunderwizard.com. Also, if you're talking about your Western chart, it could be completely not that at all, because Western and Vedic are off by 24 degrees. And Vedic, is about the sky that's directly above you, and Western astrology is not. So that's why I don't even deal with Western astrology. Brian Mullen, he's going to ask me some questions about the flat earth, right? No. Okay. I do think I'm probably not going to answer your question, but let me see. Question, do you think the Western allies will get their asses kicked if they keep provoking Russia? Why are you asking me that? I can tell you have an agenda. I can tell you have a political agenda. And I don't want to answer that for you. So I'm not going to answer that. Malu Maldonado, question, my sign is Scorpio, in Vedic or Western? Makes a difference. And my love life has been inexistent. That's a new word. You just made up a new word. You can do that. That's the thing about Latin, is that Latin is, if you put a suffix and a prefix together, you can create a word. Shakespeare did that too with English. You can do that with languages. You created a word. I think you meant to say non-existent, but my sign is Scorpio and my love life has been inexistent for the last 5 years. Will there be a change this year? I can't answer that question. That's far, far, far too general. I'd have to look at your entire chart. And I don't do that kind of astrology anyway. I'm not going to tell you what your future is. What I do is I give people tools that will help them empower themselves regardless of what transits are going on in your life. So if you want a reading from me or one of my students, go here, astrology.thunderwizard.com. I'm not giving out free readings. I gave those 2 readings of the Arudha, but I'm not just taking a bunch of readings. And anyway, thank you for your question, though. Question, Rami, is there a connection between Rahu and Saturn? Yes. Rahu creates karma. Saturn forces you to pay back your karma. So here's the thing about desire. Rahu is the trickster, which means your obsessions, your addictions. So every time you're operating from that, you create damage. I'm not saying to do it or don't do it, because that's the whole point of life. The whole point of life is to create and experience life, and then you have to pay a price for some things. Some things you get a reward for. And I'm not talking about righteousness or anything like that. It's just that's the way life works. There's a reaction to what it is that you do. So if you do something that creates life, you're going to get life back. If you do something, even if it's something for fun, even if you're learning something. Listen, I've got this past year, I am not going to tell you, but there was quite a few things that I did that, because I was in a lot of pain. I had lost my fiance to cancer, so I was in a lot of pain. I don't regret what I did, and I learned a hell of a lot. And there are things that, I'm glad I experienced them, but I also experienced a lot of, wow, I had to pay a lot of prices for some of the things that I wanted to experience. So, what was your question again? The Rahu and Saturn. So Rahu will create karma. Rahu will create lessons that you need to learn. So Saturn will force you to deal with them. Okay? But they are related. They're very closely related, but they're not the same. Let's see. Gremnor Thomas question. During the inhale of the whole breath exercise, I feel very little, and during the exhale, it feels a lot stronger. Is that a problem? No, that is not a problem. It doesn't matter what you feel. So don't, just do the exercise. As long as you're doing the exercise correctly, it doesn't matter what you feel. I mean, unless you're feeling pain. I mean, then we're talking about you're obviously doing something physically wrong. If like your head is about to explode or your arm hurts or something like that. But, don't get too into what happens. See, this is part of the discipline of it. You just do it for the sake of doing it. It's like going to the gym. You go to the gym and you do a new exercise for the first time, you're going to be super sore the next day, and you can think to yourself, oh my God, I'm building so much muscle. You're not really. It's just you're doing something different your muscles aren't used to. But if you keep doing that same exercise regularly, you don't get sore anymore. You're still building the muscle. You're still getting stronger, but you don't feel like sore the next day like you did. So same thing here. You're doing the whole breath exercise just as long as you know that you're doing it correctly. And again, don't get too bent out of shape about that either. Don't worry about what experiences you are or aren't having. Okay. Carolyn McKenzie just dropped $33. Thank you, Carolyn. That was very nice of you. I appreciate that. Okay, so looks like we've run out of questions. So I will once again take a minute and a half, and probably will end this segment because we're past the 2-hour mark. But I may have one last thing to say, maybe not. Give me a minute and a half to think it over. Alrighty, so let's see, last minute questions. I don't see any. Nope, I don't see any questions here. Alright, so last thing I'm going to say is taking us back to what the Arudha is and the lesson of the Arudha. The lesson of the Arudha is, again, repeating a theme from earlier, is don't take yourself too seriously. You have your own experience, and you are wrapped up in your own experience, as we all are. And you want to be understood, and you want to be known, and you want to be seen. But one of the things that's important to understand is that unless somebody is your mother, and perhaps if he's a good father, a father, nobody is going to love you unconditionally. I'm sorry, that's just the facts. The only people who are designed to love unconditionally is the mother and sometimes the father. Outside of that, it's conditional. That doesn't mean you can't have a really great, wonderful love for somebody. But it means that people are interested in how you affect them, and they respond to that. And, you know, we all, including myself, we say things like, I just want to be loved for who I am. Meaning, I don't want to do anything, I just want to be, and then I want people to love me. And that's just not how the world works. People love you based on the effect that you have on their lives. This is Saturn talking right now. This is what Saturn is saying. And so Saturn says, you know, if you want people to respect you, you got to be respectful. If you want people to be nice to you, you got to be nice to them. If you want money, you're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to provide a service and get something for it. You know, this is like when people, you know, again, one of the new age, you know, internet, whatever culture that we live in, we've got a lot of people, especially, you know, young kids. This is part of being a kid. Kids just want what they want, and they just want to get what they get, and they don't want to have to work for it. No, you know, that's just what kids are like. But you know, expecting spirituality for free, expecting you know, like expecting a spiritual teacher to want to spend their afternoon with you for nothing. You know, that's what parents do. Parents are the ones that give you all of their hard-earned money, and they give you a place to live, and they take you on trips, and they love you, you know, and they encourage you and all that. But once you're an adult and you're living in the world, people are going to love you based on what they get from you. And that's just the way it is. So when it comes to the Arudha, the Arudha is your gift to others. And when you allow your Arudha to shine through you, even when it is completely opposite from what you want to do, that is a way of selflessly giving that you are going to get something back from. So if you want love from people, which includes money, money is love, energy, support of all kinds, you've got to not be about, I just want to be loved for who I am right here and now. No, you've got to ask, oh, that's important for them. Being that is important for them. You know, my Arudha is a good example. I'll get more specific. I've said this before about if I look exactly at what my Arudha says, where Mars is placed and what nakshatra and what planet is lording over it, it says, it's very clearly saying that what people want from me is from me to come on and regularly spout my opinion, like on a regular weekly basis, and with Mars be very direct and, you know, let the fire out and be really, you know, all this kind of stuff that I do. To be honest with you, when I first started doing it, I hated it. It's not what I wanted. What I thought I wanted to do was to make these beautiful movies. You know, this is why I do that movie in the beginning. You know, I love doing this, even though in the beginning nobody sees it, you know, when they're looking at it live. I make those little movies because I still have that actor, filmmaker in me, director that wants to do that. And so in the beginning, I tried to do that. I tried to make videos. I would, you know, you can see me you can see the experimentation as you go through up until now. And for the past year, these are the only videos that I do, unless I'm making some kind of an ad that I want to embed in another website. Unless I'm making a video for that, my videos are always live. I don't edit them. I don't, put them, I just throw it out there. Like, reality television. That's what my Arudha says. My Arudha says I make a great reality TV star. And that's how I'm going to get my success. I'm using that in quotes, reality TV star. Now, that's not what I want. It's not what my ego wants. My ego wants, I want to go and make this beautiful movie and have people watch it and let it go viral and have 20 billion people. But that's not how it works. That's not what I'm here to do. So I have to let go, and I have to put on my costume, and I have to be that. And I do enjoy it. It is me. I'm not being inauthentic. It's just how I'm letting the light within me, how I'm focusing to shine it out to the world. And so if you really want success in this life, you got to get out of your narcissism. And you got to get out of what you want people to see you as. And let people see you the way they want to see you. And let people experience you the way they want to experience you. Even when you don't like it. Even when it's uncomfortable for you. Because it's not about you. It's about them. And even though I really focus on doing things for yourself, and this is my main message, is you've got to find out what it is that you want. And you have to go after that ruthlessly. And you can't let anything or anybody get in the way of you doing what you want. And then you've got to take risks and go after it and make sure that your soul is happy. That's all true. But even though that I say all of that, as true as all of that stuff is, it is also true that we have to then, once we've made ourselves happy first, then we have to ask, okay, how does the universe want to use me to bless others? And then let people enjoy that experience and give that to them as a gift and let them have that. And that's really what the Arudha is about. And that's why the Arudha will guarantee your success. Because when you selflessly get out of the way, let the universe shine through you what it wants to shine through you, regardless of what you think about yourself, then that gift that gets spread over the world is going to come back to you in the form of success, right? So, that's it for me on this Friday, and I'm getting ready for my weekend. I don't know if I'll be back on this weekend or not. I'm just double checking to see if there are any questions here. I don't see any serious questions. There's somebody, he knows who he is. He's wants some attention, and he's playing around trying to get me to read what he's saying. Nope, I don't see any questions here. All right, so that's it for me, my friends. Thank you so much. And now I feel bad. I feel bad that I pointed that guy out. He knows who he is. Anyway, but seriously, you can ask real questions. You don't have to make light of things like that. Okay, so that's it for me. I am going to go have a great weekend, you guys. Hopefully I'll be able to do some more surfing. And I'll be even happier next time I talk to you. All right, so that's it, my friends.